Ladies and gentlemen, we all face challenges, we all encounter setbacks, but here's the truth that many shy away from. Growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from discomfort. It comes from pushing beyond the limits, from encountering pain and using it as fuel. And today, I stand before you with a simple message: give me more pain, I want more improvement. Growth comes from discomfort. This is a truth often hidden beneath motivational slogans and feel-good advice. The reality is that discomfort is the fertile ground where transformation begins. When we feel discomfort, physical, mental, emotional, it signals that we are entering unfamiliar territory. It tells us that we're stretching beyond what is easy, beyond what is known. And that is precisely where growth takes place. Growth does not happen while we sit in our comfort zones, repeating the same patterns day after day. It happens when we willingly step into situations that challenge our assumptions, push our limits, and force us to adapt. Discomfort is a mirror. It reflects back to us our weaknesses, our fears, and our excuses. It shows us where we are lacking. But instead of avoiding that reflection, we should stare into it, because that awareness is where the work begins. When we feel emotional discomfort, anxiety, frustration, self-doubt, it means we've hit the edge of our current mental framework. We can either retreat to safety or expand that framework by enduring the discomfort and learning through it. That moment of tension, where quitting seems like a relief, is the precise place where change is possible. The gym is a perfect example of this principle. When you lift weights, your muscles tear and rebuild stronger. That soreness, that strain is necessary. Without it, you remain the same. The same principle applies mentally and emotionally. When you face rejection, loss, criticism, or even boredom, you are being presented with a chance to grow stronger, more resilient, more focused. But only if you stay in it. Only if you don't run. Only if you stop searching for escape and start looking for the lesson. We live in a world that constantly sells us comfort. Fast food, entertainment, instant gratification, convenience. But comfort is deceptive. It lulls us into stagnation. It tells us we're fine as we are. It whispers that effort is optional. But anyone who's ever achieved anything meaningful knows that the opposite is true. They've embraced early mornings, long hours, uncertain outcomes, and the voice in their head that told them to give up. They've learned that discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the price of entry. It's the tax we pay to become who we were meant to be. There is something deeply human about struggle. It reminds us that we are not perfect, that we are still growing, still learning. Discomfort teaches humility. It strips away illusions of mastery and reminds us that improvement is a lifelong pursuit. Every moment we spend resisting the easy path is a moment that adds to our strength and discipline. Every time we do something we don't feel like doing, something hard, uncomfortable, uncertain, we gain power. Not power over others, but power over ourselves. And that is the most valuable form of power there is. We often underestimate how much we are capable of simply because we avoid the situations that would force us to find out. Discomfort reveals potential. It challenges the identity we cling to and gives us the opportunity to rewrite it. You become a better leader when you're forced to make hard decisions. You become a better communicator when you confront uncomfortable conversations. You become more confident when you take risks and survive the outcomes. In every case, discomfort is not a barrier, it's a bridge. The mind will always try to negotiate with discomfort. It will say, "Do it tomorrow," or "you've done enough," or "this is too much." But growth comes when we ignore those excuses and do the thing anyway. Every person who has accomplished anything significant has walked through pain, doubt, fear, and discomfort. And they've done it not because they were fearless, but because they understood that comfort was never going to take them where they wanted to go. Discomfort is the grindstone. It sharpens us. It reveals who we are and who we're becoming. And for those who lean into it instead of away from it, it delivers transformation that no comfort ever could. Pain as fuel for growth is a concept that defies common instinct. Most people avoid pain, seeing it as a signal to stop, retreat, or protect. But those who achieve real transformation understand something different. Pain is not a punishment. It's a catalyst. It is the pressure that awakens strength, the spark that ignites change. When pain enters our lives, whether through failure, heartbreak, loss, or intense effort, it brings with it the raw material for evolution. It strips away illusions and comforts, forcing us to confront who we are, what we value, and what we're capable of enduring. Pain has a way of clarifying things. When we are hurt, we see more clearly what matters. When something important is taken from us, we suddenly realize its value. When we fail, we begin to understand the gaps in our skill, mindset, or preparation. These realizations, born out of painful experience, offer a sharper lens through which we view the world and ourselves. They motivate us to make changes we might have otherwise avoided. Growth doesn't come when everything is going right. It comes when something goes wrong and we are forced to respond. There's a reason why some of the strongest, most disciplined, and most grounded people have lived through serious pain. Pain humbles the ego. It teaches patience. It demands resilience. It strips away the noise and leaves only the core of who you are. And from that core, if you let it, pain will build something stronger than what existed before. It forces you to adapt, to fight, to keep going when it's easier to quit. That process, repeated over time, is where real growth lies. Pain doesn't just make us stronger, it makes us more aware. A painful moment often creates a level of focus that peace cannot. It brings your attention to what needs fixing, what needs facing, what needs to be let go, and it gives you the urgency to act. No one improves because everything is easy. Improvement is born in the moments where continuing feels impossible, but you do it anyway. Each time you endure, you teach your mind and body that you are capable of more than you thought. Using pain as fuel means taking the energy of that suffering and turning it into momentum. You don't let it break you. You let it build you. The pain becomes the reason you don't quit, not the excuse to stop. It becomes the fire behind your drive, the weight that makes you stronger. Pain becomes fuel when you refuse to waste it on self-pity or avoidance, when you use it to dig deeper, to rise higher, to become sharper. It transforms from a burden into a gift, not an easy gift, but one that changes you in ways that comfort never could. Pain is a teacher, a motivator, and a forge. If you're willing to face it, it will reshape you into someone tougher, wiser, and more capable than you were before. Failure is a stepping stone. It is not the end of the road, but the beginning of a better one. Too often, people treat failure as a sign that they are not good enough, not talented enough, or not meant for success. But the truth is, failure is part of the process. It is not a mark of weakness, but a sign that effort was made, that risks were taken, and that growth is on the horizon. Every person who has achieved anything meaningful has failed, often and sometimes publicly. The difference is, they did not stop there. They used failure as a lesson, as a signal to adjust, improve, and keep going. When you fail, something valuable happens. You gain feedback that success could never give. You learn what didn't work, where the gaps are, what needs to be corrected. Success can be deceptive. It can mask flaws or breed complacency. But failure strips things down to the truth. It shows you reality without filters. It demands that you become honest with yourself about your effort, your habits, your preparation, and your mindset. That level of reflection doesn't come from winning. It comes from losing and being willing to look at why. Failure also builds resilience. Each time you fall and get back up, you prove to yourself that you are not fragile, that you can handle adversity. That confidence is not built by everything going smoothly. It's built by facing hardship and choosing not to give in. Failure hardens your discipline. It strengthens your mindset. It teaches you that discomfort is survivable and that setbacks are not permanent unless you choose to stay down. And when you develop that kind of inner toughness, success becomes more than possible. It becomes inevitable. In many cases, failure is what leads to breakthroughs. A missed opportunity pushes you to look in a new direction. A rejected idea forces you to innovate. A lost competition drives you to train harder and smarter. Without failure, there would be no pressure to adapt or improve. You'd stay the same, locked in routines that don't demand your full potential. But failure breaks that pattern. It shakes you awake. It opens the door to creativity, to reinvention, and to a deeper understanding of what it really takes to win. The mindset around failure is what makes the difference. Some people avoid it at all costs, choosing only to attempt what feels safe. But growth requires risk, and risk comes with the possibility of failure. The goal isn't to avoid falling, it's to keep moving forward after you fall. When you start seeing failure as part of the path, not a detour from it, everything changes. You stop fearing it. You stop hiding from it. Instead, you welcome it as a necessary step on the journey. Failure, when approached with the right mindset, becomes one of the most powerful tools for growth. It humbles, it teaches, and most importantly, it prepares you for success that lasts. Embrace the process, even when it hurts. That's the difference between those who talk about improvement and those who actually change. The process is rarely glamorous. It's not always exciting. In fact, it often feels repetitive, frustrating, and painful. But inside that pain is progress. Real growth doesn't come from motivation alone. It comes from consistency in the face of discomfort. It comes from showing up on the days when you don't feel like it, putting in the work when no one is watching, and staying focused even when results are slow to appear. Most people want the outcome, but not the grind. They want the reward without the sacrifice, the victory without the battle. But there is no shortcut to mastery. There's only the process, day after day, hour after hour, decision after decision. It's in the early mornings, the late nights, the missed celebrations, and the internal battles that no one else sees. The process demands discipline. It tests your patience. It forces you to confront your excuses and push past your limits. Pain is a part of that process. There are moments when you'll feel stuck, when progress seems invisible, when self-doubt creeps in and tells you to walk away. But that's the moment when you have to dig deeper. That's the point where growth is about to happen. The process hurts because you're being stretched. You're letting go of who you were and stepping into someone new. That transition is never easy. It's uncomfortable, uncertain, and often lonely. But if you stay with it, if you embrace the grind, the pain, the setbacks, you begin to transform. The process also teaches you to respect the work. You start to value the journey more than the destination. You stop chasing quick wins and start focusing on long-term gains. Each rep, each hour of study, each hard conversation becomes a brick in the foundation you're building. And once you learn to love the process, even the parts that hurt, you become unstoppable. Because you're no longer dependent on motivation or external rewards. You're driven by purpose, by discipline, and by a hunger to grow. There will be days when quitting feels easier than continuing. Days when you question why you're doing this in the first place. But pain is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you're alive, that you're doing something that matters. Most people give up not because they lack potential, but because they resist the pain that comes with the process. But pain isn't there to break you. It's there to shape you, to test your commitment, and to remind you that transformation always comes at a cost. If you can learn to embrace that cost, to welcome the hard days as part of your evolution, you will rise above those who only work when it's easy. The process is where your character is built. And the ones who embrace it, especially when it hurts, are the ones who rise far beyond what they ever imagined possible. Push beyond your limits. That's where the real change begins. Most people operate within a boundary they've unconsciously built for themselves. A line they rarely cross. A zone that feels safe and familiar. But comfort doesn't create champions. If you want to grow, you have to step past the edge of what you believe is possible for you. You have to ignore the voice that says, "This is too much," and find out what happens when you give more than you thought you had. Because the truth is, your limits are not fixed. They are fluid, and they expand every time you challenge them. Pushing beyond your limits doesn't mean reckless effort. It means intentional challenge. It means doing the extra rep when your body says stop, studying for 1 more hour when your mind is tired, staying focused when distraction is tempting. It's in those moments, the ones where quitting feels justified, that you have a choice. Give in to the old version of yourself or fight for the next one. That choice, repeated over time, shapes everything. Your discipline, your identity, your future. It all depends on how often you're willing to push a little further than before. Limits are meant to be tested. They are not barriers. They are starting points. The first time you try something hard, you may fail. You may fall short. But that experience doesn't define your ceiling. It simply reveals your current level. From there, you build, you improve, you adapt. Every time you push beyond your known capacity, you widen the path forward. What once seemed impossible becomes part of your routine. That's how growth works. It demands more of you and then rewards you with the strength to handle it. There is pain in pushing past your limits. That's unavoidable. But the pain isn't punishment, it's feedback. It tells you that you're doing something meaningful. That discomfort is proof that you are not settling. The moment you feel resistance is the moment your transformation begins. Most people back off at that point. They retreat to what they know. But those who push forward, who accept the challenge and embrace the burn, they discover just how far they can go. The strongest, most successful individuals are not the ones born with the most talent. They are the ones who kept showing up after others stopped. They're the ones who broke their own boundaries again and again until those boundaries no longer existed. They learned that the limits they once believed in were self-imposed, and by pushing through them, they unlocked levels of endurance, skill, and strength they never knew they had. Your potential is greater than you think, but you'll never access it until you challenge it. You have to go beyond what feels doable. You have to be willing to fail, to hurt, to face your own doubts and keep going anyway. That's where greatness lies, not in staying where it's safe, but in pushing yourself further than you ever thought possible. That's the difference between staying average and becoming something more. Greatness requires sacrifice. It's a truth that's often overlooked in a world that glamorizes success but hides the price behind it. Every extraordinary achievement carries a cost. That cost is paid in time, energy, comfort, and sometimes relationships, sleep, and even peace of mind. To reach levels that others only dream of, you must be willing to let go of what most people cling to. You have to say no to what is easy and familiar in order to chase what is rare and difficult. Greatness does not come with convenience. It comes with commitment, a commitment so deep that you're willing to give up today's comfort for tomorrow's excellence. Sacrifice is not about loss for the sake of pain. It's about trade-offs. It's choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term pleasure. It's waking up before the sun to train when others are sleeping in. It's spending hours practicing your craft instead of wasting time on distractions. It's turning down parties, declining comfort, and missing out on what's popular to pursue what has meaning. People will question you. They will tell you to take it easy. But those who reach greatness understand that ease and greatness do not coexist. You cannot coast to the top. You have to climb. Every time you choose discipline over laziness, growth over comfort, and purpose over pleasure, you are paying the price of greatness. These are the small daily sacrifices that compound into mastery. No one sees these choices. They don't get applause. But they are the foundation of success. The athlete who wins on game day sacrificed months of hard work. The artist whose work inspires millions gave up countless hours in solitude. The entrepreneur who built a powerful company sacrificed stability, sleep, and often sanity to chase a vision no one else could see. What separates the average from the elite is not just talent, it's the willingness to suffer for what they want. Sacrifice builds character. It sharpens focus. It filters out the distractions that keep most people stuck in mediocrity. When you sacrifice for a goal, that goal becomes part of you. It's no longer a wish or a dream. It's a purpose. And you protect it with your decisions, your time, and your energy. Most people want success, but they don't want the sacrifices that come with it. They want the reward, but not the grind. But the universe doesn't work that way. You don't get to keep your old life and step into a new one. Something has to give. Something has to be left behind. And if you're serious about greatness, you'll accept that. You'll learn to find value in the sacrifice itself. Because every late night, every early morning, every lonely hour of work, it's shaping you. It's proving that you're worthy of the goal you're chasing. Greatness never goes on sale. It always demands full price. And the ones who rise to meet it are the ones who are willing to pay it. So, if you truly want growth, if you truly want greatness, you must be willing to welcome the discomfort, endure the pain, embrace the process, face the failures, push past your limits, and make the sacrifices. Because nothing extraordinary is built on comfort. The path is hard, but that's what makes it worth it. You don't need it to be easy, you just need to be relentless. When others stop, you go. When it hurts, you lean in, and when doubt creeps in, you remind yourself this pain is the price of becoming something more. So rise, bleed for it, burn for it, and become everything they said you couldn't.